Hi, everybody. I'm Chicago's psychic medium and intuitive consultant, Mel Dorr, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm really excited because I just finished a YouTube with Linda Grindle this morning. It's Monday, and I promised you that I'd come on every day since, the attempted coup. But, I got kind of busy on yesterday. A lot of people had asked me to put up something that would be kind of fun and to give everybody a smile. So it was, I think, Friday or Saturday night. I put a video up of my dog Lucky girl, um, taking her test for her performance dog. Uh, Lucky is a 4.5-year-old. I think she's a Kelpie mix. Kelpie means Australian sheepdog. Um, and it's a funny story to go along with it. Back in 2016, on March the 26th, 4 days after my birthday, my mother passed away of breast cancer. And then 6 or 7 months later, our dog Radar died. She was only 6, and she got sick very quickly. And from the time she got sick, within 3 or 4 weeks, she was gone of lymphoma, or they said either leukemia or lymphoma. And then 2 or 3 cousins died. So I was going into a deep depression, and we'd said no more dogs. So something one night, my mom's spirit, Radar spirit too, said, search the internet. So I did. And I saw a picture of a dog and it said, our pets, click. So I did. And it was Chicago Canine Rescue here in Chicago. Typically, they only take older dogs. But the picture I clicked on, I guess that they had gotten 5 puppies, which they rarely get, from a high kill shelter in Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky originally. So we'd said no more dogs. But anyway, I went to look at the dog we have now. I went to look at her sister, whose name was Sequoia. I wanted a female. And there were only 2 females and the rest were males. But anyway, they put me in a room and both the dogs were running around. Sequoia was jumping on me and Lucky was kind of running around behind her, like, pet me, pet me. Lucky was the smallest. Her name was Hinata at that time. But anyway, she put her head in my hand and just kind of whined. And oh my God, she took my heart. I didn't think I was going to get her because 3 people wanted her. But as my guides would have it, I had to convince my husband. That took some doing. Slept on the couch for a couple nights, but he came around. I couldn't think of a name for her. And I was talking to my sister in Kentucky, and she said, well, you're lucky to have her. And she's from Kentucky. How about Lucky from Kentucky? So that's how she got her name. And it's amazing how dogs can pull us out of depression and despair and anxiety. Um, it's just amazing how healing they can be. So in all this uncertainty, I thought it'd be nice to put a video up about her. My hobby is dog training. Lucky has completed all kinds of stuff. Canine Good Citizen through the AKC, Canine Good Citizen Advanced, Urban Dog, Therapy Dog. She's gone through scent work. And my hearing is really bad. So we taught her to be able to identify sounds I can't hear and target touch my hand, and then look in the direction of the sound to let me know that there's something I can't hear, provided it's something valid, not just noise. So, but when I take her to work with me, she comes every day when I go to work. She just gets to be a dog. But when I put her work vest on her, she knows the difference. So the trick training that we use, as I said, she's gone through 4 levels of that. So novice, they have to do 10 tricks, intermediate 10 tricks, advanced 10 tricks. Performance dog, it has to be narrated, and it has to be, I think, 3 props. And so, and you can only use tricks from other 2 levels of intermediate, and advanced. And so she's got her performance dog. We're working on performance dog elite, but we had to stop when COVID hit. But a lot of the tricks that we teach them in AKC trick training, we also use for service dogs, like how to pick up a credit card or how to open a cabinet or bring a bottle or fetch, you know, and a lot of them, you have to do it by linking. So for example, for her to get a bottle out of a refrigerator or a purse, she has to first learn bottle. She has to first then learn fetch it and then bring it back, then to open a refrigerator or a cabinet or a purse and identify that. So what we do is we get them good at one trick, and then we add another one and another one, so we link them together so the dog gets it. You have to work with them daily, but only like 15 minutes each training session per day, because otherwise, you know, like us, they get bored. But Lucky loves to work. I can get a rev depending on the kind of, we use a lot of treats, but when she's doing her performance dog work, or when she's competing, in performance dog elite, you cannot use a treat as a lure. You can give it as a reward. So I can get her revved up with a piece of a hot dog. And the problem is if she gets too revved up, then she doesn't want to work. She's too busy focusing on the treat. So there's a happy medium. Anyway, she's a sweet dog. I keep her busy. And she loves to play. She loves a tummy rub. So, you know, I find it sad that there are so many dogs that are murdered every year in this country because they made the mistake of being born. I have no use for high kill shelters at all. I think it's inhumane. I think it's cruel. And dogs so many of them can be trained to do such wonderful things. So my advice is get a dog, but they are responsibilities. You know, they don't come house trained. They don't come trained to walk on the leash. They don't come trained except to be a dog. So I say go out and get a dog and be a responsible dog owner. The other thing to learn is how to interpret dog language. You know, when we're talking to our dog, they recognize their name. But if you use too many words, the dog doesn't get it. So to the dog, it will be like blah, 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 Lucky. So that's probably how it sounds on dog. Lucky has about a vocabulary of about 40 words. Sit, stay, come, leave it, take it, bring it, open, say your prayers. And then we combine the command with the hand signal, so that if some reason she doesn't see the command, then she sees the hand signal. And that works when your dogs get older, because if their hearing goes, they can still see. So there's a lot to it, but I love it. And we never, when we're training, you can't give a dog a correction like, no. But you never want to hurt your dog. You never want to inflict pain when you're training. You know, it's based on something called operant conditioning. Anyway, I could go on and on about dog training, but somebody asked about, do dogs have souls? Of course they do. And when they go on the other side, you know, can their spirits still be around us? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess the bigger thing is, will we be reunited with them when we cross over? Well, I haven't crossed over yet, but my feeling is yes, we will be. I'm sure that our dog Radar, who passed away, she had been terribly abused and she was very apprehensive, but boy, she was attached to my hip. I'm sure that she orchestrated sending this dog Lucky to us. So I love dogs. I love animals. I like people too, some of them. Anyway, so that's my dog story. And I'll post more videos about Lucky, the wonder dog. Her next venture, when she's working on Performance Dog Elite, will be Lucky Goes to Hawaii. And it's got a little plot to it, and it's fun. All right. So let me get to my predictions. At the end, I'm going to announce the winners for the free half-hour sessions. Everybody hit the like button, please, and subscribe. So when I get to 10,000, I will give 3 more free readings. Thank you for your support. It's greatly appreciated. So predictions about the coming year and answering some of your questions that you've sent in. Back, and I'm looking at my notes. In 2020, our global economy had the worst recession in 74 years due to COVID-19. COVID will remain with us in 2021, and I see it mutating into various strains, as I had said before, and now they're thinking that there's some different strains coming out of Africa and the UK. But I think the vaccine will have enough cross immunity to protect us from those, but the virus will continue to mutate. So each year we'll get a COVID shot along with the flu shot, and they'll have to predict which COVID strain is going to be predominant at that time. Like the Spanish flu in 1918, it never went away after it ran its course, and then later it was called the swine flu and something else. But it's still, endemic means it's just there, not pandemic, which means it's more like an epidemic on crack. Anyway, it'll mutate into various strains, but vaccines will enable a global transition to a post-19 COVID economy. And I'm predicting that the first half of this year, the economy will be a little bit slow. Somebody asked on my channel if the economy would crash within the first, 2 or 3 weeks of 2021 or of Biden's administration, and the answer is no. I think the stock market will kind of go up and down a bit, but it will not, I repeat, it will not crash. Had Trump been reelected, we would have been in a depression, I'm sure. But anyway, I think the vaccine will be available to most of the population and large populations by mid 2021. In this country, probably May. I think it might be summer before everybody's vaccinated. What I do see Joe Biden doing, or that administration, is coming up with a way to vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. I remember when the polio vaccine, getting my polio shot, it was amazing how they vaccinated people in mass. And then I remember when the Salk vaccine came out and everybody went and took it on a sugar cube. I remember taking my sugar cube. I wanted another one because I thought it tastes good, the sugar cube. So I really think what's going to happen is the federal government's going to help states mobilize, train volunteers. When people come through the lines, do the paperwork, to train volunteers to actually give the shot, and all of that. So Biden's going to hit the ground running with this vaccination program for COVID. Yay. And it'll be free. People are asking if the impeachment, if they do it right away, would it impede the progress for COVID vaccinations? And the answer is no. So I see the vaccine coming available by mid 2021. And what I'm saying is this is going to be the absolute most ambitious vaccination program since probably the polio vaccine. The virus is not going to go away. As I said, it's still going to be there, but we'll just be immune to it. But I see a lot more availabilities of antibody treatment, antiviral treatments. So a lot of people have asked what was the purpose of COVID. I don't know if there's any one purpose, but what it did do was brought about a lot more knowledge in fighting viruses with antibodies, with effective vaccinations. And I think it also, the message is that we need to nurture our planet. Because if we're stripping rainforest and things like that, we're taking, there could be viruses there that have been isolated for thousands of years, and now they can skip from one species to another. And we got to stop raping our planet, seriously. So, and to honor our planet. It was funny, I said this before, that when COVID hit, and everything was under lockdown, the rivers in Europe cleaned up. The reefs in Hawaii started coming back a lot more. Fish came back. I think they said they saw storks or pelicans in Venice, things that have been gone for a long time. So we need to really clean up our environment. And by the way, I foresee the United States rejoining the Paris Accords, and that the Biden administration putting a huge emphasis on clean energy, green energy. And I predict that by 2030, 10 years, that we'll be mostly driving electric vehicles and hydrogen ones, because the only byproduct of hydrogen is water. Only thing is, you don't want to get too much water vapor in the atmosphere, because we don't know what that's going to do, but it's better than the fossil fuel emissions. So people ask me psychically if we've gone past a point of no return with saving our environment, and the answer is no, we have not. I think if we don't do anything within the next 4 years, then we can tip the scale, but we haven't done that yet. We'll tip the scale for the better for our environment. There's lockdowns going on now, but I think once the vaccine gets available here and in Europe, the lockdowns will stop. So as I said, the economy is going to go very slow in the beginning of 2021, but then it'll pick up tremendously by the second half of the year. So I see a reopening of economies and travel. And I think Biden's going to create jobs. It might be something like the Civilian Conservation Corps that FDR put in place, like part of the New Deal. But I think what they'll do is focus on like bridges and roads and expressways and infrastructure, generating clean and efficient energy, all kinds of stuff, which will create jobs. So I think what Biden's going to do is to companies that got a huge tax break under Cheeto head. I think what's going to happen is they'll say, okay, if you want to still manufacture abroad, that's okay, but you have to bring some jobs back here. And if you do that, we're not going to raise your taxes. If you keep sending jobs overseas, then your taxes are going to go way higher. I think he's going to give a tax break to the middle class and tax according on a graduated scale, according to who makes what. It's just unfair that the super wealthy pay no taxes at all. That will change. Okay. So I see a reopening of travel, creating more spending, stimulate economies. I think the global gross domestic product declined in 2020, but it'll increase. I see to probably 5%, 4.5% by the end of 2021. So I see a shift coming, obviously, from investing in the COVID-19 to the environment and a focus on green energy, as I've already said. So a total reawakening of the environmental movement. Yay. Let me see here. I've got my notes. So what's going on with the violence? I still see there will be more violence, unfortunately. And some people were calling for a civil war. I don't think they realize what a civil war is all about, how bloody it is, and how people starve. Look what happened in Syria. We don't want a civil war. So when those people are calling for that, quite frankly, they're out of their heads. I see that we become more critical thinking again, and common sense coming back, and then we don't get hung up in the fear. We let that push us forward and start to learn to reach across the aisle and work together. I think we're coming into the age of truth in 2021, where people will speak out about the big lies that have happened over the past 4 years. During the Trump administration, dysfunction has become acceptable. Criminal behavior has become acceptable, and that just doesn't fly. So we will see justice brought to a lot of those people, and we will see accountability, that we have to be accountable. Um, so I see that coming into play. Um, people are asking if Pence will call up on the 25th Amendment. I don't think so. Um, I think probably what's happening is you have to have, I think, 2/3 majority or something to take somebody out of office under the 25th Amendment. But I think the reason that Pence isn't doing anything, not because he's afraid of Trump, but because if they did try the 25th Amendment, it might unhinge traitor Trump even more. And I think they're just trying to keep the tiger in the cage, as it were. Um, I do see the impeachment happening. Impeachment just means brought to trial. If he's not convicted of the stuff of sedition, at some point he will be, after he's out of office, looked at for sedition and treason. And I see him under indictment and his family members in the state of New York and possibly Georgia, which presidential power can't pardon anybody charged with a state crime, only federal. So, he's going to have his whole list of pardons, and some people ask if those pardons will hold up, or if Trump or if Biden can reverse the pardon. Once you're pardoned, it can't be reversed. But what I do think is a lot of those people that Trump pardoned, they'll start digging the federal government and states and find other things to charge them with. So that's not over. Trump's trip to Texas, I think, he's going to try to pull a stunt with a governor or somebody down there. So I think that they're going to kind of try to arrange a huge rally in Texas, once again, about fraudulent voting and this and that. And also in some of those swing states, there will be outbreaks of violence, but nothing like it was at the U.S. Capitol. I do think that the FBI, Homeland Security, those people are monitoring internet chatter to see who the insurrectionists are. I understand that thing Parler was taken down. I don't know, but I think they're going to monitor websites as well to see what's going on. So no, I don't see a civil war. I do see the Republican Party at odds with each other. A lot of those people that are following Trump really aren't Republicans. They're Trumplicans. They're Trumpsters. And there are many Republicans that don't want that much to do with Trump anymore. And I see a couple of senators, Republican senators, maybe 2, 3 more even, coming over to the Democratic side because of all of this. So I think some of the senators, like Joshua Hawley, he's going to be called to task and under an investigation for some of the stuff he's pulled. Cruz, I think at this juncture, these people, these senators that support Trump and this whole sedition thing, and this whole that the election was rigged, they know that Trump is telling a big lie. They just don't care, because what they're trying to do is play to his base. But they will be called for their stuff. Okay, so all right. Lorraine asked about Biden's wife and if she would, because she's got a doctorate in education, Biden's wife, what she would do with education in this country. Well, I think she's going to be a huge advocate of education. I think she's going to want to make sure that everybody gets an equal education, and that there's going to be an emphasis back on teaching the kids reading, writing, arithmetic, all of that stuff. So she's going to be a really big proponent of that. So good. Christine asked if the riot was planned and if those responsible will be brought to justice. this riot that happened in Washington was just not a happenstance thing. Trump had told the Proud Boys months ago to stand ready. And I think Trump spurred it on, obviously, but it was organized because on the same day in the Capitol, there was also rioters and things like that did this in other cities and states as well. I don't think it got as violent, but these people will be brought to justice for breaking in the nation's capital, for the murder of the police officer, all of that. Okay. So Emily asked if the GOP senators will be held responsible, and I've already answered that one. Cynthia Walker, will race relations in the United States improve? And the answer to that is yes. I thought we had come a long, long way until Trump got in office, but the first thing Trump did was vilify Mexicans and then Muslims and then everybody else. He gave a a wink and a nod to white supremacists, and I think he played under a lot of suppressed racism in people, not all people. But the way we can help defeat this is to speak up when we see the big lies coming and to say, we will not tolerate the lies. We do not tolerate violence, but there will be anybody that creates violence that you're going to have to pay the price for that. That, Trump thinks that he can just do anything he wants and there's no consequences. Well, that's going to change, because a lot of these people are going to find that there are consequences to their behavior. So I do see race relations improving because we're going to call out when we see fascism and racism that it's not acceptable, at least not in this country. Erica asked about the Proud Boys. Well, the leader of the Proud Boys has been arrested, as she said. And she said, will they still make more chaos? And the answer to that is yes. Until pretty soon they figure it's not going to get them anywhere. We're looking at about another 2 years of them trying to pull shenanigans. But, I think Merrick Garland is going to make a tremendous attorney general. And the FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, all of that are going to look into these groups that want sedition. I still see Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court. So I'm thinking that, Thomas is going to be off the court. And by the way, the shenanigan his wife pulled, she'll be called to task for that as well. So, okay, Jenny Richardson, will we see justice? Well, I think I've just answered that there is accountability and that justice will be served. Cheryl Hola, if I'm mispronouncing your name, she talks about the healthcare industry and how will we settle that dust? Well, I think after COVID, we're going to learn to have systems in place. So there is a viral outbreak that it doesn't get as big as COVID did, and also infrastructure to deal with a viral outbreak if one would occur again. So that doesn't have to be this hodgepodge of what happened. Trump didn't do anything about this virus. He was too busy on the golf course and too busy saying it was a hoax. After he had told, I think, was it Woodward on the phone back in February of 2020 that it was airborne. So, but Biden will put things in place to prevent or try to contain future outbreaks. Okay. All right. So somebody asked Valerie about Joe Manchin, that he's a Democrat, but he always promotes the right and what will happen with him. Well, I see him out of office as well. Hi, I just had to pause the recording to get my notes situated again. So somebody asked about Mitch McConnell and the election in Kentucky, was it rigged? I'm not even going to go into that, but I do think that McGrath will run again at some point for Senate, and she will win. So I think a lot more of the red states are going to turn purple. Somebody asked, COVID numbers in LA, will they go down? Oh, that was Lisa. So Lisa, I don't see them going down right away. I think it's probably going to be maybe April before we see that happen. I do think Donald Trump will be called to some sort of accountability for letting almost 400,000 Americans die. I understand in Los Angeles, there's a case every 8 minutes. So how can anybody deny this or not wear a mask? It just boggles my mind. So I do see them going down, but it's going to be a bit. Donna Douglas, I love this question. I love them all. Thank you for your support. And she asked, children at the border, when and how will they be reunited with their families? I think under the Biden administration, I think the people that were here under DACA, he's going to give them citizenship. And I think people that have been living in this country and working in this country for many, many years, who haven't committed any crimes and who've been paying taxes, he will open a road for them to get citizenship. I do see the children reunited with their families, but it's going to take a lot of work, but I think within the next year and a half. And those detention places, the cages that they put those kids in, those will be closed down. And a lot of these kids are going to come forward and talk about the horrors and the abuse and everything that they had to face. And that's going to come out soon, within the next year. And it's going to get all kinds of media attention. Many might even sue the federal government, but that's another thing that's going to be a mark against Trump. So Donna, thank you for that question. Lillian, I like this question too. And I think I've touched on it, but when a pet passes away, do they know we miss them and love them? And the answer to that is yes. They're around us. I know we miss them, but they are around us. Okay. So Ro, when will it be safe to travel abroad again? I'm thinking by this summer. Other countries are probably going to want us to show proof of vaccination. And I think rightfully so. Airlines might even talk about that. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but what they might say is, if you're going to go to a foreign country, so the international flights, the airlines might say, okay, make sure that you've got your certificate of vaccination along with your passport. Just like, now you have to have a passport. So, when you go in, you go through customs, they're going to want to see, your certificate, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to hold up things because you got to go through customs anyway now. So, okay. So I see safe travel coming. My partner works in travel. And I'll be very glad when the travel industry comes back because they've really taken a hit. Okay. Morgan brought up something. Medals of freedom, can they be rescinded? I don't know. I think Biden might kind of question, that, like, why were they given this Medal of Freedom? They shouldn't have been. But they can't rescind pardons. Once a pardon is issued, it's there. What they can do is look for other stuff to indict. And that's what they will do. Tia, what do we need to do individually and collectively to help the United States heal? Boy, that's a good one. I think part of what I said earlier is to speak up against the big lie. Don't get hung up in fear. Don't get hung up in conspiracy theories. And even though we disagree with someone, doesn't mean we have to hate them or dislike them. Hatred gets us nowhere. So I think if we show others that we're accepting, but that we won't put up with sedition, and we won't put up with bigotry or racism, that'll get us somewhere. So, we're not out of the woods. We've got a long way to go. Trump in 4 years did innumerable damage, but it's not irreparable. Okay. Let me see. Somebody asked about punishments. I can't read my writing, I'm sorry. I think for the punishments for the people that have created a lot of this, and the answer is yes, there will be punishments. Okay. Okay, so let me just do this. I want to change my notes real quick. Okay, so Christine asked, will Lindsey Graham be in trouble for calling Georgia election officials in November? And the answer to that is yes. He's not out of the woods on that one. Notice how he backpedaled and turned coat to the Senate after he played to Trump. First he didn't like Trump, then he liked Trump, now he didn't like Trump. Lindsey, take a stand on something. He's a chameleon. Sylvia Gonzalez, will Trump be charged with treason? And the answer, I think, is yes, as evidenced by, the sedition and then articles of impeachment. It's a good question, though, Sylvia. To be charged is one thing. To be convicted is another. All right. And I do see him being convicted of that, but not during the impeachment proceedings. It will be afterwards. I see him convicted for other things in the state of New York and maybe Georgia, but I have a hard time seeing him go to jail. I think when they closed down his Twitter account, my guides show me that he was just red in the face and the veins were all popping out. It was just venomous and, oh my God, screaming. And I see him throwing a cell phone and shattering. So anyway. Okay. Adrienne asked about transgender experience. She says, are they more in touch with their soul and spirit identity rather than their human identity? I'm gay, but I'm not transgendered. Okay. So I don't think transgender has anything to do with being more in touch with a spirit identity. I think transgender people are in touch with their human identity. They're very in touch with who they are sexually, even though their biology might say something differently. And so I think by getting in touch with that, they probably are a lot more balanced than many of us. So I don't know if they're any more or less in touch with their soul and their spirit identity. I'm sure some are, some aren't, the same as many of us. Some are, some aren't. But I think they're in touch with their human identity. But thanks for the question. Okay, I think it's Candy Mullen, where the airlines require passengers to have COVID vaccine with proof to board flights. I think going to Europe, they might say, bring the papers with you. All right, the same as you got to bring your passport. I think when, if you go online, you make a ticket, they're going to ask you. They may even have you scan it in. I think once this is passed, then no. I do think what's going to happen in this country, though, like during flu season, and somebody asked us that we'll wear a mask, in Asia, they do. And it's just courtesy if you're feeling sick to wear a mask so you don't infect somebody else. And I just think it's good manners. So we'll still see people wearing masks, not all the time, but, if they got a cold, wear a mask, right? In my office, if somebody's got a cold, even before COVID, if they were sick and they called in, they said they weren't feeling well, they were going to come, we'd say, no, stay home. We don't want other people to get sick. So I think it's responsible, Okay. So Rose Montoya said she heard somewhere on the internet that there were quakes to hit California of 7.5 to 7.7 on the Richter scale. Will it happen? I do see quake hitting Southern California more. I don't know. Could be a middle to latter part of 2021. Fortunately, I don't see a lot of lives lost. It will be a big quake, but I want to go more. Well, there's actually two, one in Northern California, but a big one in Southern California. There'll be some property damage and things like that, but not the catastrophe that people might think. So anyway, Mary Shackles asked about wearing masks during flu season. So thank you, Mary. Amy David asked about the purpose of the pandemic. I think I've already answered that. So some people are asking about Biden completing his first term. I think he's going to be a one-term president, but he will complete his first term. Um, I don't know why he won't for a second term, but I want him to be very, 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 very careful of his safety, and Kamala Harris as well, because there's some crazy people out there that might try to go after them. So I don't want to give that any energy, but I do think there could be attempts at assassination, but they will not succeed. They will not succeed. So good. Okay, I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I'll get to other questions, the rest of your questions in another video. So the winners of the free readings, half-hour free sessions. To set it up, call my office, 847-590-5411. Donna Douglas, you're a winner. Manj V, M-A-N-J V, you're a winner. And Joanne Sanchez, you are a winner. So I look forward to reading you. Thanks for watching. As I said, when I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'll give away 3 more. Anyway, it's been my pleasure. I wish you the best. I wore green today. It's a short sleeve shirt. It's cold here in Chicago, but it's green for healing. And I thought we needed that. So I'll be putting up videos really quick. Well, quickly. I don't mean quickly, but soon. Okay. And probably daily in the mornings during this whole thing until this blows over, until Inauguration Day. So remember, don't get hung up in the fear. Our democracy, our country will survive. And it's not going to be led by a group of fascists. It'll be led by responsible people who genuinely care about the American people. All right. I trust you'll be well. Namaste.